I suppose as a new narratives pop up in regards to the Palworld lawsuit, I probably should like make content talking about it. At the very least, to kind of like emphasize that Palworld is completely fucked. The uh the shills are scrambling, and that there is no future for this company. And that's been evident since even before the game came out. But for some weird reason, people are adamant that Palworld is going to win this lawsuit. It's going to be bigger than Pokemon, and there's nothing Nintendo can do to stop it. Even though I genuinely believe that the Pokemon trading card app that they just released probably has made more than Power World had in its entire lifetime within like the first couple of days, right? Like I genuinely think that people really underestimate how big Pokemon actually is. I've been emphasizing this a lot when talking about the Power World thing, but people really the fact that people thought that like Power World was outdoing Pokemon after like supposedly selling like 15 million units, that's laughable, okay? Like Pokemon puts out like a new generation every 3 years that sells more than that, and that's not including the spin-off titles like merchandise, app applications, the anime. Like the list goes on and on and on and on. Like Pokemon is the most lucrative IP in the world for a reason. It's not just because of game sales. And this is something that people really need to like wrap their heads around when talking about this, because one of the big hopes that I keep seeing in regards to Power World is that they have too much money to lose in court. That never mind, like they actually have to find a lawyer. Never mind that they actually have to win the lawsuit. Like no, just because Power World has money, supposedly, that makes them untouchable legally, according to people who don't know how this shit works. Like it's like it really is like Nick Rekieta, right? How he like sits there in his house, like snorting cocaine, fucking his wife and his girlfriend. Like, the government can't come after me. I have too much money, so let me like log on to Aaron Imholt's account and then stalk what he's doing and send Ethan Ralph and Melton after him. Like, all of that is like super illegal, right? Super illegal. But Nick really thought he could get away with it because he has money. Or like he did at one point in his life. Like, it's the same situation with Power. It really, really is. Their behavior, their mentality, the way the shills act in regards to this, they really think that having one minor success, allegedly, would somehow, some way protect them from Nintendo. Like they can't take Power World away from us. We've made too much money on it. That's not how this works. Again, Nintendo is going to get their injunction, and Pocket Pair is no longer going to be able to utilize the Power World IP. Right. The one thing that anyone cared about, Power World, is not going to be able to be utilized, and Pocket Pair is going to be forced to fold because they won't be able to pay back their debts. They won't be able to continue with like all the deals they signed with Sony and Namco Bandai or whoever, right? Their entire operation is just going to collapse. Not that it was ever really a thing to begin with, but this lawsuit is 100% going to completely destroy Pocket Pair. And the fanboys don't seem to realize that. And Pocket Pair seems to know this because Pocket Pair, their weird mindset, it's very Nick Rekieta-ish, is to go on Twitter and gaslight people into thinking that like, oh, we didn't do anything wrong, these patents are ridiculous. Like one of the terms they throw around is like patent trolling. Like, oh man, they're abusing their patents. Like, oh, anybody can use these patents. Like the point of patents is to protect mechanics that are utilized by companies in their video games. So patent trolling doesn't apply to companies that actually use those patents, right? Patent trolling is a concept utilized by corporations that are incapable of utilizing their patents. So like for Nintendo that has that is using those patents all the time, like that does not apply at all. So again, like the entire thing is a giant coat from people who don't understand the law, don't understand the corporation, the issue, don't understand that Palworld, don't want to accept that Palworld did plagiarize Pokemon. What It's just people desperately trying to push a narrative for clicks and views. And these same people are going to like cry and moan and bitch when Palworld loses the lawsuit, right? This is the big thing right now. Like when Palworld first came out early this year, the narrative was always that like, oh, Nintendo can't sue them. Like it's too different, it's too distinct. And now that they have, it's this situation where like, well, they can't win it because like this, and this, and when they do win, they're just gonna keep coping more, right? And again, it's so frustrating, right? Like when you see like um these people make statements against Nintendo, it's so like off base compared to like what you normally see from people complaining about corporations. Because usually when people complain about corporations, it's something that's like actually deserved, something that actually should be talked about, something that has like real legal ramifications or screwing over consumers. Like when you see people like throw terms like anti-consumer around, like in regards to Nintendo, like they're just coping and seething about piracy. And this is like very similar in that regard where people everyone knew that Palworld had like infringed on Nintendo's brand with when Palworld was first shown off. And then it became an issue, and then people were in denial that it was an issue. And this is the reason why I can't take these people seriously, because they aren't looking at it like from a nuanced perspective. To them, Nintendo is like absolute evil and must be condemned at all costs, while Palworld are good devs who did nothing wrong. And even though they don't play Palworld, they don't really care about it because nobody actually plays Palworld. Like they'll come out and defend it just to own the evil Nintendo. And this is the pattern we've been seeing over and over and over again across all these different companies, all these decades, all these different consoles, all these games. Like you always see people take the other team's side when it comes to these Nintendo arguments, because they have been trained from a young age by a corrupt gaming press into thinking that Nintendo is evil. This is a really good example, something I've been thinking about lately. The warship for Super Mario Bros. 3, right? The narrative back then, Mario 3 is the greatest game ever. Like it'll never be topped. Yada yada yada. And then World comes out. Like, oh, like World is trash. Like Sonic the Hedgehog is way better. Like, see, this Sega magazine told me so. Nintendo has fallen off. And things have like never really changed since then. Right? You still see people like, religiously defending Cyberpunk 2077 while at the same time condemning The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom or like Mario Wonder. Like, oh, Mario Wonder, like nobody's talking about it. Like, that's a complete non-complaint, right? You're just coping. Like that's a reach, but that's what you've been doing, right? That is legit your argument to downplay Mario Wonder. Like, a game from 2023. Like, well, it's not as good as Mario 3. Like, it's just a cope. Palworld never even came close to touching Pokemon's brand. But for some reason, people really want to push this narrative that Palworld is some massive threat to Nintendo, and that's why Nintendo, in its evil machinations, is like doing everything in its power to unjustly take this game down. When in reality, what they're doing is perfectly justified. If anything, like I would argue that Palworld should never have made it to market to begin with. And hopefully this is the beginning of the end of these kind of like derivative properties that are clearly aping off Nintendo brands. I would love for them to go after Undertale or Pizza Tower or any of these other like obviously derivative like identical Nintendo products. Like this really needs to stop, right? You really need to have more creative ideas. You can't just build your game off of like some old Nintendo title and then like gaslight your audience into thinking it's like better than anything Nintendo has ever done. Like it needs to stop, okay? And hopefully Palworld is the beginning of the end of this mindset. Like I hope after Nintendo gets their injunction and Palworld gets shut down, we can finally start talking about just how insane the anti-Nintendo narrative has become.